Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Royal News Network Saturday morning live stream. I realized I should have waited a slight second for going live, as people tell me there is a delay. And I was obviously delayed this morning. So I decided to try something different with my hot chocolate maker. Didn't work out too well, so I had to make a second batch, and that was kind of the reason for the delay. And then I realized I hadn't fed Pippa her morning breakfast that she doesn't eat until like 2. So I had to put breakfast down just in case she was feeling a bit of the munchies. So guys, welcome everyone. Obviously, Invictus is this week. And we do already have some video where I am still absolutely shocked that people don't see how fake Meghan Markle is. Because she was spinning some doozies of, I would argue, are lies to the audience. And I would say her appearance resulted in sort of, I mean, there were some hoops and hollers, but not maybe as many as you would think. And it's just a reminder of how everything about Harry and Meghan has become about the Harry and Meghan games. It's no longer about the veterans. The veterans are like the sideshow attraction. And Meghan Markle just spent the entire time telling them how wonderful her husband was. Or is, basically, and it's very sad. So we may watch a little bit of that, although I might save it because I'm going to do a video on it. Because, Canada, it's like coming home, the place she doesn't live anymore, and made the immediate decision when the borders were about to close to leave. So yeah, sure, Meghan Markle, it's home. She didn't even live in Vancouver. She lived in Toronto. Like, there are different cities on different sides of the country. The amount of just like lies she tries to spin, and that, they're working on getting the kids out in the morning, and Harry comes in and he's talking about Invictus on the phone. And I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And apparently the kids are in California because Meghan officially said, oh, the kids are California. So she's not quite to the desperation level of trotting out the kids yet, but she needs to endlessly talk about them. I just wish they would stop talking about the kids. Just stop talking about the kids. Nobody cares. If nobody sees them, nobody cares, Meghan Markle. So anyways, guys, good morning, everyone. And Rebecca says here, I feel the veterans are being cheated out of so much. They are. They legitimately are. When you actually listen to Meghan Markle's speech to the Invictus crowd for like the pre-night or whatever, it's all about her and Harry, not about the veterans. Oh, you need to know how hard Harry worked. What, the guy who barely graduated high school, and basically every publication in the last 2 months has called him stupid. Sure, he was really working on it. Not that he doesn't appreciate the games or like the games, but he needs to stop his wife from making it all about his greatest. But he's, I think, in on it too, because he wants it to be his greatest achievement. And the veterans have been totally lost in the process. And they're kind of also, I would argue, also lying to the veterans, going, oh, there's 40,000 people here to cheer you on. It's like, no, they're there for Chris Martin and Katy Perry. Be real here. They're not there just for the Invictus Games. They're there for the concert. That's why you're advertising the concert. Anyways, if you're just doing about the veterans, you and I both know you want to be able to fill the stadium. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation, unless you did something else. That's why you had the musical guests in the first place. If you could just fill it with people cheering on the veterans, you would do it. It'd be a lot cheaper. All right, we got John and Masood. Good morning, dear Brittany. Let's take an ordinary event like Meghan and Harold Markle and elevate it with your video and content. It will be the most glamorous moment of our lives. Why, thank you, John. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much for the super sticker this morning. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, let's keep going. All right, Chatty Kathy asks, I'm here early with my coffee and water. What kind of cocoa are you drinking this morning, Brittany? So it is the salted caramel because I ran out of the regular hot chocolate. Like, I do like the salted caramel one, but sometimes I just like the regular hot chocolate. So it's a Hotel Chocolat fermenter maker thing. So I got that, and yeah, it's been super delish. But I tried to utilize the chocolate flakes I got in Dresden in the thing, because I also put chocolate flakes in. But I think those chocolate flakes are too big and too heavy, and I didn't really totally know that until after I was starting to make it. And then there was a lot of chocolate everywhere, and I was like, ugh. So. Water says, I already feel bad about the veterans. So sad how far the Invictus Games has fallen. Yes, it is. Because I do remember when I went in 2016, we did have James Blunt, and maybe somebody else, but it wasn't. It was more about the veterans, and it wasn't. I don't think a big, huge thing. I think the problem is that the Invictus Games must keep growing to satisfy Harry's growing ego, and it just has a limitation. It just has market saturation. It just has a bandwidth. I think he's pushing it way past, way past, and the further conflicts get out of the mind, sadly, the less focus there is on veterans. And these, like, when you listen to Meghan's speech, and probably Harry's speech is somewhat similar, it's all about him. The games are all about him. It's like the competitors almost need to say, "Hey, we're going to start." I mean, like, I know the conundrum they're facing, because the conundrum that is killing them, the Invictus Games, is that the veterans really want the games. But they have to be aware that the games are becoming also the Harry games. They're becoming all about Harry and Meghan. So you're losing the veterans, you, in the process, but you want to keep the games. So you don't want to take off the guy who's funding and helping to set up the games or driving the interest in the games. Yet at the same time, you got to know he's only doing it because it looks good for him. There's no other reason. So yeah, it kind of just all looks a bit silly at this point. So, all right, we got Gina B. Good morning from sunny Las Vegas. I love the Saturday morning lives. Yes, and I know sometimes people comment long before the thread starts, but I only have until, like, I think a couple of minutes before we went live. So these are the first ones I'm seeing. So if you commented earlier than that, then you might want to just re-put in your question into the chat or comment. Joan G says, when will Meghan finally be canceled? More folks attend a random college football game than Invictus. Yeah, I mean, and literally they're only attending for the musical guests. I don't know if canceled is the right word, but, like, I know people say, "Oh, you're promoting her by talking about her." I'm really not, because what I'm doing is exposing her, because the mainstream media won't do it. So I say, "Look at this. Listen to how fake this is, because it's fake. It's so incredibly fake. You can feel the scripted contrivance of it. Like, it's palatable." So you have to show that, because people have to understand why there is this sense among a lot of people that she's not likable, because some people will just say it's the racism thing. So almost you have to go overboard to overcorrect for that, because they put this specter out there that anybody who doesn't like her is the R word. But when you really look at it, you watch that speech, how can you think she's being real? It doesn't make sense. If it feels like home, why don't you live there? Obviously, it doesn't feel like home. You don't live there. She never even lived there, except for a couple months. She lived in Toronto. Like, so are Vancouver and Toronto the same things to Canadians? Are the Toronto and Vancouver the same things to you? I doubt it. So her statement, just on the face of it, makes no sense. I mean, she said generally Canadians will, but, like, still, it makes no sense. If it feels like home, why don't you live there anymore? Why did, as soon as you could, drop anchor and go to California? Not drop anchor, right? Raise the anchor and go to California, because that you consider your home. You don't consider your home Canada, otherwise you'd still live there. So stop gaslighting everybody. Scrambled egg, thank you so much for the super chat. Justin from the New York Post, Trump isn't sending Harry back to the UK because he's dealing with enough with his terrible wife. That's funny. Yeah, I know some people have said that Trump won't deport Harry or anything. Guys, I just don't know if that's true. If Trump really is sticking to his guns, then that's what he should do. At this point, you have a Labor government in power. Yeah, it might slightly upset King Charles, but does Trump really care about that? Because at the end of the day, Charles isn't one making the policy. It's Keir Starmer. Trump might just send Harry back if Keir Starmer annoys him enough, just because he's like, well, you guys get to deal with this numbskull now. We don't want to deal with him. And so Harry, like, I don't really have any sympathy for Harry. If he lied on his visa, if he has the wrong visa, all those sorts of things, we deserve to know, especially as Americans, when he's attempting to do all the things he's attempting to do, which is be an royal of America. And they've said basically he's too dumb to do anything else but be a royal, basically somebody who just shakes hands and listens to various speeches and gives various speeches. He is apparently incapable of humanly doing anything else. I think he actually has enormous capabilities, but He doesn't want to utilize his brain, I guess. So this is what we're stuck with. But if he's going to do that, he can't live here. I'm sorry. If you're going to try to be a prince of here, you're not a prince of here. Go somewhere else. So, anyways, we shall see. And if Harry and Meghan didn't do things the right way, if they didn't think things through, if he wants a green card, he can get a green card, but then they have to give up the nice titles. And I'm sure they don't want to do that. All right, Kristen M says, do you think monarchies will be able to survive the coming decades or centuries? Will they naturally phase out over time? Thank you. Well, thank you so much for the super chat. And that's such an interesting question because I think royal families do have, I mean, they've survived the centuries for a reason. Yet at the same time, obviously things are changing, but things are cyclical too. So there may be a situation where, let's say there's World War III or IV and it's like nuclear Armageddon. Naturally, I think monarchies would, in different forms, probably survive. It's one of the oldest forms of government. I mean, it probably is the oldest form of government, essentially. Now, granted, you had, let's say, villages where there's a village chiefdom or something, but it's kind of similar to a monarchy. It goes through, let's say, the village chief and their descendants or whatever. This is literally one of the oldest forms of government on the planet. It'll always survive in one way or another. Now, granted, what royal families will survive, let's say if most things remain the status quo, that's a big question. I think, Britain's fairly stable, but I do think, again, I say Harry and Meghan undermine the brand of the monarchy. They undermine the brand. That's why the royal family needs to take them and their antics a bit more seriously sometimes, is because they do undermine it. You can't just sit there and go, oh, well, they're doing their own thing. Everybody knows we're different. Doesn't matter. If you have a brand, let's say, like Disney, do you want somebody copying you? It undermines your brand. So it's just a simple branding exercise. Then you got, let's say, Spain. They work really hard to keep the monarchy. I think they're fairly stable. You got, let's see, most of them are fairly stable. The only one I would say that really just, I was like, wow, becoming unstable is Norway. And that's not only because you have the problems that you already do, but because it compromises the future generation. The previous scandals, let's say in Belgium and in Spain, were the result of the current generation. So they went to the next person in line. Well, Norway, the next person in line is the problem. And that's Crown Prince Haakon and Crown Princess Mette-Marit, because they raised Marius. Yes, he spent time with his dad, but they raised Marius too. So they're sort of responsible there in that situation. So that's the big question, I think, is Norway. The other one I was going to say is the Netherlands. There's been a lot of rumblings I've seen on Twitter, especially of people going, do they realize how many holidays they're taking? Do they realize how bad that looks? So he's kind of getting a holiday king moniker, and that's not a good thing. So we shall see. Kind of wish, guys, I had gone with a different sweater because I'm hot in here. It's like colder today, so I'm like, but I'm hot. Okay, so let's do beautiful toy reviews. Why, thank you so much for the super chat. Good morning, Brittany. I love your channels. I started watching you since last year. I can't get enough of your videos. Why, thank you so much. I'm really glad you enjoy them. I do them because, in part, they're fun. I wish I could have somebody else edit them just because that takes a while, but they're just so fun. And like, I want to talk about the things, and my family was getting sick of it. So I get to talk about it with all you guys, and you guys are more interested in hearing about it. All right. We got Cheryl T in Oklahoma. Thank you so much for the super chat as well. Good morning, Brittany and RNN fam. It's been great to see the Princess of Wales engagement. She looks fabulous, and stopping to say hi to the crowd was sweet. Goose, Vinny, Misty, plus Foster's, Fern, and Otis say woof to Miss Pippa. Why, thank you. And your cat, I can't remember their name, has a meow of indifference. Yes. So I thought it was great to see Catherine again. I did a whole Crown Report on it, and I'm so sorry, guys. I've been a little bit behind on getting the Crown Report videos out. Again, I had internet issues all day yesterday, and because the Crown Report was later this week, I think I just got all jumbled. And so things have just been, and I've had actually internet issues all week. So I got a new modem, I think. So hopefully most of that should be fixed now. So hopefully not dealing with that anymore. So hopefully able to get a bit more out today. But yeah, I couldn't film until like 8 o'clock last night because the cable guy didn't get here until or internet guy till like 7 or something, or close to 7, 6:30, something like that. So it was a late night, and I was like, I wanted to talk about the article, and then obviously Invictus is coming up. So I don't know when I'll get to talk about the rest of the article, but I do. Anyways, it's been great to see Catherine. And I did the whole report again on Crown Report. That's how I got on the Crown Report tangent this week, just talking about how I'm so glad that I was worried in the initial reports where it's like, oh, she's going to be slow getting back. And I'm like, how slow? Because you guys can't really, there's becomes a point where, like the Holiday King situation with Willem Alexander, what is appropriate and then where are you dipping the line into avoidance? That's kind of the balance you have to walk. So I'm so glad we've seen her out and about quite a bit. I think that's fabulous. I'm so glad I was wrong. I was a little bit worried. I didn't have to be. So that's a fantastic thing. So I'm so glad that she has been out and about. So Rich says 5 nights, 5,000 a night in a luxury hotel and of course private jet and a fashion show with all the enablers, it will never end. Yes. And the thing is, and guys, this was my theory. And I almost actually was going to do like an undercover trip to Invictus. And I'm glad I didn't because honestly, I don't care that much. But I think honestly, the Invictus is well aware that they could not fill the seats without Harry and Meghan in some ways. And the publicity, they would not get the publicity without Harry and Meghan. That's what they believe. So they're more than willing to indulge them because it gets them more attention. Now, here's the thing. Would it be possible with a better PR team to actually get the attention for the veterans without utilizing Harry and Meghan? That's possible. They're just too chicken to try. They're too chicken to try. And so they're going to do this and probably drive the whole thing into the ground because they're too scared to go without Harry and Meghan. They're too scared. And granted, some of it is like, I've been to the game, some of it I enjoyed, some of it I didn't, to be quite honest. It is more of a personal thing to be clear. I think it really is because swimming was dull. Swimming was dull, especially those with severe disabilities. Like it was a long time and it was a great accomplishment for them, great accomplishment for their family. So proud of them. But me as a spectator without any idea of the background of that person, it wasn't compelling. And that's the challenge that the Invictus Games has, is that sometimes, sitting volleyball can be engaging, but something like swimming, where it's sort of a more individual event, takes somebody a really long time to complete things without the background knowledge of the struggles they've had to get to that place, doesn't mean anything to you. I know it was probably a lot, but I don't know. As a random spectator, I have no idea. So I think the challenge for the Invictus Games is how to get people engaged in the veterans, but they're not doing that. They're not doing that. It's all about Harry and Meghan, especially once they're there. It becomes all about them. And they completely and utterly cover any coverage of the veterans. I don't know any of the veterans. And some of them that they've chose to focus on in Heart of Invictus, one of the guys lost his arm in a motorcycle accident in like Florida. So that's not really, war related, which is what I thought the point of Invictus was. So lots of issues. Patricia Kelsey, morning, everyone. Was hoping they wouldn't attend the games out of respect. Oh no, I knew they would. I knew they would, especially Meghan. She can't help it. She needs good press. She's like dying for good press. And I don't think Invictus Games is particularly good press, but it's an opportunity for her to try. So Peggy says, good morning from Michigan. We got K Coffee. Hello, RNN family. Got mocha and ready for the live. I don't know why I said it like that. Laura Miller says, good morning, Brittany, Miss Pippa, and all. Do you think Harry, Meghan, and Harry's children will show up at Invictus? We have been told no. Meghan said, our kids are cheering you on from California. It's like, why? Because they couldn't come? Because like Harry and Meghan want to play games with the kids. And that's fine, but stop this sanctimonious thing where, acting like the kids care when they obviously don't, or acting like, yeah. So Tanya Black says, good morning, Brittany, Miss Pippa, and Peeps. Oh, yes. And we got, as Matt says, William sets boundaries. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how to say it. So obviously my video last night, in case you guys missed it, if you have missed it, you should check it out. But Meghan is a stage 5 hugger. She needs to hug you all the time. And William got really uncomfortable with it and really tried to set, I think, some boundaries that Harry didn't appreciate. Basically saying, yeah, you're getting too touchy-feely with me, Meghan Markle, as Prince William. So you need to stop. So I think he was smart in setting boundaries in that way. I think it's smart for anybody. I mean, obviously they're kind of family, but also professionals too. I think it's responsible for anybody to set sort of boundaries. Like I've worked in environments that are, Christian conservative, and so there's certain stipulations that we have in terms of like how we can interact with members of the opposite. Like you couldn't drive sometimes with members of the opposite sex for a long period of time. You couldn't do like there's no office with like four walls where if you shut the door you can't see inside. And I think there's actually some decency in that. I know some people think it's too radical, but it's actually good. Think about, let's say, like Matt Lauer or something. I think some of the rumors of him were that women would walk into his office and then he could lock his office door from his desk or something. Bad things happen sometimes when you are able to minimize witnesses. So I think transparency, you could say, I think was a great thing. So it allowed people of the opposite gender to sit and chat, but it also enabled to make sure people could see in. So you had no hanky panky. So anyways, I think boundaries are good in that way. I think William was incredibly smart to go, hey, you are looking, because I guess some staff, and I don't know really how serious this was or not, were thinking that Meghan was flirting with William. And I could see Meghan being a flirt. You can almost see it a bit in the speech she gave recently for Invictus. Again, I keep teasing it. It's on my Twitter, but I think I'll do a whole video on it. Like, I think she's just generally flirty. That's how she gets her way with men. And William's like, no, you really need to stop this. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable for me. And Meghan just doesn't seem to respect anybody's personal space. And that comes from a place of somebody who just has no concept, no respect for anybody's boundaries. She has no respect for anyone, really, because if you're forcing people to hug you and they, let's say, don't want to hug you, but and it's not just like a little hug, it's like full body hugs. I actually had that happen once. I was meeting with somebody and it was a guy. I had known him before, like, but I knew he was married, and I was like just expecting a handshake, and he went in for a hug, and it was like awkward because I was like, why are you hugging me? We were never even that close. Like a handshake would have been perfectly fine. I'm just like, no, I don't know you that well. So, and just because he was married too, like there's levels of things, guys, where I think it's kind of important to be cognizant of some things. So that might be me a bit of a prude. I don't care though. You can call me that all you want. I don't care. All right. So Marjorie says, hi, everyone from cold, gray, rainy London. Oksana says, loved your video on hugging. I'm not touchy-feely person. I hate when strangers try to hug me. Why, thank you. Yes. So I'll share a funny story of me as a kid. So my mom, when I was like born, like I didn't really want to be cuddled that much. So when it came to, or like being rocked to sleep. So when it came to like me going down for like a nap or bed or whatever, my mom would just put me in the crib and I was totally fine. And then it came to my sister. My sister is a bit more touchy-feely huggy and needed a lot of more cuddles. And so she was like a little confused because she thought I was like the perfect baby because she just could put me in the bassinet and I would put myself to sleep. But it just comes from, I'm just naturally not a touchy-feely person. And I think that's totally fine. People are different things. And so I think actually being a friendly person is recognizing that somebody has boundaries and not crossing them. Friendly doesn't mean you just constantly go over and full body hug somebody all the time. That's weird. All right. Jody said, why are all the events? Why are all their events about the lavish lifestyle versus about doing good? Oh, I know. It's because it's all about them. I need Meghan. Yes, it's all about her. Like everything is about her. When you look at everything as it's all about her, it all makes sense. Creative Chaosify says, good morning, everyone. Christina says, hi, everyone from soon to be ice covered Maryland. What are your thoughts on Invictus? And they are already there and on stage. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And I am not, what is the word I'm looking for? Like it's par for the course. And again, Invictus, like, you really got to think about it. Invictus is seriously just not caring as much anymore about like keeping up appearances. Like they're totally bought into the Harry and Meghan train because they're like, they are again believing that it's the only thing that brings veterans in. At this point, none of the stories about the veterans get out. None of them do. Like it's so sad. I just don't understand why people don't see that. But we're gonna see a lot of them this week. All right, we got Peggy Spungen. Thank you so much for the tip. Love your channel so much, Brittany. I hear that Blake Lively needs a new BF now that Taylor has given her the boot. She and Meghan would be perfect for each other. True out of touch narcissist. Yes, they would. They would. They would, although, like, I think it's interesting because when it comes to Megan, she has a certain vibe, I think. You have to be either somebody who thinks the sun shines out of her butt or she has to need something from you. And so I'd be curious what she would maybe need from Blake, something like that. And I come at that as from somebody who mostly just liked Blake's fashion, didn't really know that much about her, knew she was married to Ryan Reynolds, knew she had a family, knew she was pretty, liked her fashion. But man, I like she's she's torpedoed her own career. Who the heck would want to work with Blake Lively anymore? And honestly, as well, who the heck would want to work with Meghan Markle? She doesn't really offer much. So it's one of those things where it's like they're such narcissists, and like this is a Hollywood issue in general. And it's just, yeah, it's just terrible. But yeah, Blake Lively could definitely and Meghan Markle, they could commiserate together and they could share in their toxic press together. Because I'm sure Meghan is just and Blake are both freaking out about the trajectory of things. But I mean, there's just so much simple things they could do to make things better that they're not doing. So I don't understand. I don't understand. So, Lizzie B gifted one a Royal News Network membership. I thank you so much, Lizzie. You are so sweet. This morning, do that almost every stream. It's very sweet. All right. Helen says, I have Witter's gingerbread hot chocolate this afternoon. I don't normally drink hot chocolate in the afternoon, but had to join in. Why, thank you. Yes, I do like their gingerbread. My favorite was their cinnamon when they used to have that. So I got my new Hotel Chocolat. They had, I think, a chili one. So I'm hoping it might be like the cinnamon. And it might be really good. Water said, I'm glad to see the real princess out and about where Meghan needs to force a child to hold her hand. Princess Catherine can't get a child who doesn't want to let go of her hand. Yeah, like the kids were like all over Catherine. And that's a natural thing. I just felt like that bit where Meghan was holding the hand with the child in Colombia was like such a setup. They're like, well, okay, we got one kid to put in. And so, yeah. Ritz says, with so many struggling to pay rent and food, this is allowed to continue, disgusts me. Yeah, I think it really turns people off. Oh, Liz E gifted 5 Royal News Network memberships. Why, thank you so much, Liz E. You are so kind to do that this morning. I know somebody will really super appreciate it. And yeah, because people are struggling and we're going through kind of a crazy turnabout time. Like, I'm curious to see where things are going, but yet at the same time, we don't really know either. Haley says, good morning. I can completely believe Meghan made Charles and William uncomfortable. How Harry didn't see it baffles me. Yeah, how he still doesn't see it. Anything about her, like, just boggles the mind. Like, he is obviously so hopelessly led by her. Like, he basically gave up all his autonomy to her. Like, he's basically given up. He's basically given up. That's what he's done. And he has no free will, no ideas of his own. Like, he just basically gave up his entire life, every decision of his life to her. And maybe that's what he wanted, but it also means he's a weak beta male. Just saying. Shelly Lewis, thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate it. Thanks for your broadcast. You say, why, thank you so much for tuning in, because I wouldn't do them, guys, if you did tune in. If I was doing it to 2 people, I probably would say, no. But I was just surprised I decided to do a live one time. I think it was my first one was when I was going to Prague and people turned up, or not Prague, Krakow. And I was like, wow, people come to live streams? Really? I didn't know that was a thing. So it's been fun ever since. All right. Disfan says, did you see the Christmas card at Meghan said Gloria? I did see that. So it was like, obviously, some people believed that it was like kind of copying Catherine and William in the sand. I kind of believe that too. So yeah, they don't really have an original idea. So it was lame. They had their royal cipher on it. Like, the level of their deluded, like, clinging to their titles is just pathetic. I mean, really, truly, honestly, it is very, very pathetic. Like, so highly pathetic. Like, you guys are just so weak. Sorry, that's my perspective. We have Amira Gregory gifted 10 Royal News Network memberships. So I thank you so much, Amira, and we also have Ann Key gifted 5 Royal News Network memberships as well. Why, thank you so much, ladies. Those are wonderful gifts. I'm sure will brighten somebody's day during this time. So thank you so much, Amira and Ann. All right, let's go back here to the list. So we have Birdie says, good morning. What about the death threats scare Harry and Meghan believe, wishing for IPP status? Do you believe this? So here's my perspective. I don't doubt sometimes that they get hateful messages. I don't doubt the fact that they know people don't like them. I live with it a bit too. It's sort of part of being in this world. The question is, I think, I don't have the inside track. I know probably they do deal with some serious threats from time to time. But I think they're conflating negative comments on social media with like actual death threats. And people on keyboards 99.9% of the time are just like spit talking. They don't mean it. And I'm sure there's some who do. There's always the crazies, but I would argue some of their fans are kind of the crazies. So anyways, not trying to dissuade this idea that they do deal with some negativity and stuff on social media, but I think it's wildly overblown. I think it's wildly overblown. I think they are so up their own behinds that they take every negative comment and they twist it into some sort of threat. It's not a threat. People are just, like going on social media. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're not going to like you. I get awful things said about me all the time too. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, but it's part of being on the internet. If Meghan can't stand it, then she needs to get off it. She needs to go and live a private life. If you can't stand the heat of the kitchen, you get out. I this sort of notion, like ludicrous, deluded notion that somehow everybody on the internet is going to sing Kumbaya and love you and it's going to be a nice place. I mean, the internet is basically all the levels of hell put together. That's what the internet is. All the deviance, horrendousness of humankind is on the internet. So if you are going to sit there and just like get worried about every little internet thing, guess what? You can go away and none of that will exist anymore. You guys got plenty of money. Go buy a big house in Texas or Alabama or something, or Kansas, away from the rest of the world. And guess what? Probably everything will die. Everything will die down because they don't see you. They don't care anymore. But she wants people to care, but she wants people to care her way. And that's just not going to happen. We've seen through her. We've seen through her. So the only way forward for her is to actually recognize her failures and change. But she won't do that. So she'll be stuck in this perpetual cycle of like self-loathing a bit, loathing the internet, so many different things, because she can't just do the one thing she should do, which is get off the internet if you can't stand it. Like, for example, if you get on social media, let's say Facebook every day, and you see people living the lives you want and it depresses you, well, then maybe you should get off Facebook. I know somebody who did that. Who got off social media because she was having there was an issue and she was like, you know what? I'm not trying to share anything because I don't want to, but she was like, I can't deal with some of the things I'm seeing on social media because I don't have this particular thing in my own life. So I'm going to get off social media. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. That's the way you do it. That's the way you do it. That's called personal responsibility. Harry and Meghan want to put the burden on everybody else to change for them rather than recognizing that they're probably the ones who need to change. Caroline says, hi, Brittany and everyone from a muggy night in Perth. Why, thank you. Why do that says, good morning from Manitoba, Canada. I have friends who are the huggy type, but they know that not everyone wants to be hugged. It's called common sense and respect. Exactly. Like there are some people and I just hate this idea that she's being friendly by hugging everybody. She's really not. She's really not. Or that she's being just American by doing that. No, it's a creepy, weird Meghan Markle thing. Margaret says, good afternoon from Worcester. We have Zelanine. I don't think I'm getting there. Good morning from Vancouver. Snowing, going to be a mess for Invictus. Oh, that's fun. I really hope I put on my bingo card. If you guys haven't seen the bingo card, I did create one for the Invictus games. I did put on there that I hope the competitors have fun, because I genuinely do hope the competitors have fun. But Harry and Meghan, I think, are not allowing the Invictus to have fun. It's all about them. We have Eva that says, good morning. We have Patricia. I think by the time of the wedding, he didn't want to marry her, but there was no alternative. No, I think he did. I think he's definitely under the spell. But I think the spell, you can see the spell break every once in a while where he just goes, what the heck am I doing? Why am I with this person? But then, he gets sort of love bombed again. So he's in a kind of a toxic, vicious, narcissistic cycle here. Water says, just realize why Harry won't start the games at Super Bowl weekend. Yeah, that's kind of dumb on his part. Really dumb. Because guess what? All the attention is going to be on the US Super Bowl. I know not all Canadians like it, but it is the largest sporting event. One of the largest. Well, at least the largest in the United States, I think. A third of all households watch. So at least 100 plus million people, which is insane. I know the World Cup gets more technically, but all right. We have Diz Fan. It says, I find it so cringy of the things she does. She doesn't represent the US in a good way, especially during her time as a royal, especially the hugging. Yes, that people keep saying, and thank you so much for the super chat, that it was like an American thing, like half the things she did that were super weird. It's not an American thing. It's a weird, creepy Meghan Markle thing. Please stop. I actually did a PSA to all the royal journalists and citizens on Twitter yesterday going, stop equating everything Meghan does to being an American. She's not normal. No normal American acts like that. Yeah, you got some outliers who are kind of on the spectrum there, but no, it's a weird, creepy Meghan Markle thing. It's not an American thing. It's not the United States thing. Yes, are we more direct than our British cousins? Yes. Are we different? Of course we are. Will there be a bit of a culture clash? Sure. But what Meghan was not a culture clash. She was like literally trying to dismantle the system. She was just rude, abrasive, just didn't care about anyone but herself. Like that's not generally how Americans act. So yeah, we just got to say. Sylvia says, I'm so upset about the millions of dollars U.S. taxpayers sent to Harry's charity. It's all being exposed. Yeah, I really don't believe those reports, guys. I would really pump the brakes on that. I'd really pump the brakes on that. I don't really think all that is true. So I would not go too far into that yet. I don't really think it's true. The thing about Harry and Meghan, which I've noticed, is that it sort of kind of gets to the point where like there's almost so much and people are just looking for a negative headline. And so they push that. So Rit says, I'm very affectionate, but at least I have awareness when it comes to others' preferences about personal space. Not everyone is a hugger or in your face forcibly. Yes. Chatty Cathy says, is it true that Meghan got the mic first at Invictus? Why, yes, it is. Because she wasn't going to talk, but then somebody convinced her to or something. I don't know what weird, not like deluded thing that is, but whatever. Deborah says, good morning from Drury, South Carolina. So Jamie says, good morning, Virginia. We got Chantal says, good afternoon from the Netherlands. I upgraded my membership so I can do all the live streams. Awesome. So excited. I enjoy those. We will be having a members only live stream this Thursday. So Jenny Dar says, good morning, everyone. Hopefully Brittany's internet is working. Looking forward to this. Yes. Oh my gosh. Guys, it was like I would test the internet and the upload was like non-existent. It took me 3 hours to upload a video the other day. 3 hours. I usually can do it in 5 minutes. So that tells you so that really does slow you down because it's like, I don't want to do something else. It's going to take so long. So yeah. Aletha says, a beautiful baby girl from Sweden. Oh, yes, we have a new baby girl from Sweden. I'm looking forward to what dukedom she receives at her christening. Yes, I think they give it to her I want to say before her christening, because I looked it up and I think they maybe do it at the the cabinet meeting a couple days after their birth. So that will probably be sometime next week. I think I was trying to look it up. So you might be right though, and I might be wrong, but we do have a new baby girl. We don't know her name yet, but yeah, Sophia and Carl Philip have 3 boys. So this is their first girl, and she was a bit of a surprise baby. So I'm sure in some ways they're like, this is a nice surprise. Not that you wouldn't love having, another baby if it was, another boy. But I think because it was surprised that they weren't planned, and she admitted this, that it wasn't necessarily what they had planned initially, that to have that sort of surprise blessing, I think would be super exciting. Water says, and then he didn't care that even passing football fans will care more about the Super Bowl than Meghan's show. Yeah. I mean, we'll look at it. Oh, Jacqueline says, my Piper is just like Pippa. Oh, I thank you. Pippa is a Pippa. She's so cute. She finally got her bones this week. She finally got them back after her mouth surgery. Very, very excited. Rose said, hi, Brittany. We got Eva here as well. Good morning, Brittany. We got Prince of Peace. A morning, great RNN family. Rich says, the lying both of them do is sickening. It is pretty, like, they lie a lot. I don't put maybe the burden quite so much about Harry as that knowing he's lying, but Meghan knows she's lying. Again, why is she telling us, "Oh, it's so great to be home in Canada, a place I left and didn't stay that long, and I was forced to be for a production studio." It's not home. Like, even if I went home to my hometown, it wouldn't feel like home because it's not really my home. Just saying. Crazy Cat says, good morning from Ontario, Canada. My aunt and uncle live in Whistler and don't like Harry and Meghan. Oh, they'll have fun this week. Roxanne says, good morning, Brittany, and all from NYC. Violetta, hello from Slovenia. Hello. We have Disfan. Good morning, Brittany. So Tree Annie says, Neil Sean sure has ma'am figured out. Rich says, I have to mute each time one of them speaks. Their voices make me angry. Yes. Loretta says, did you catch the speech? I certainly did. Scrambled Egg says, have you read about Harry's visa in the New York Post? Harry said he won't send him back because he's dealing with such a terrible wife. Yeah, I did see that. I answered it earlier, but it's still funny. Athena Temple says, I thought Nigeria was her home. She talks other crap. Yeah, she just talks about like everything's her home. It feels like home. It feels like home. Stop lying. It doesn't feel like home. My goodness. And I don't know why, because it's like, to me, it would be like going to going to the West Coast and saying this feels like home. In some ways it does, because I've spent a decent amount of time on the West Coast. Let's say like it's going to Minnesota and going, this feels like home, even though it's not. I don't know. All right. Do we have Susan Bisbee? I started watching it and had to turn off. Really, so cringeworthy. But she said we would see more of Harry. Let's see. Oh, yes. Turn on your light, Brittany. Why, thank you. Okay, let's see. I do have this is my little calendar thing, which I need to get up to date. Caroline says, I don't understand why she's on the stage. Her speech was crap. You don't see CEOs, wives, husband introducing their partners in special events. Yeah, it was honestly a very terrible speech. Like it didn't really make a ton of sense, to be quite honest. She was all over the place. Fiona says, surprise, surprise, she didn't trot out the children. She didn't. So she's not quite to that level of desperation yet, or she's still too worried about how the kids will behave. So Loretta says she has many homes, Canada, Nigeria, US, Portugal, everywhere. JR15 154 said, sadly, couldn't be less interested. So sorry for the athletes. Yeah. And it says, do you think that King Charles is looking rather poor in health lately? I noticed this a bit for the Royal Variety Show. So yeah, I'm a little worried about him, to be quite honest. Hopefully he's good. But he's still getting treatment. So we don't know what stage his cancer was or anything. So it's definitely a little bit concerning. So Bukai says, did the children get their In-N-Out shakes from their mommy? Probably. Sherry says, we only want to know about milkshakes, not the kids. Marjorie says, at this point, she cannot stop the lies. If we get the truth, I'd be surprised. It's all about PR for Harry and Meghan and the veterans way down the line. Yeah. This fan says, good morning, Brittany. Did you see the leaked Christmas card that Meghan sent to Gloria? I have to agree that she will use the children for Invictus. I predict this will be her last straw before divorce. We shall see. But if things don't go well for her, especially with the show, I think she'll really start to spiral. Jennifer says, how hard Harry works. How about how hard the actual people work behind the scenes? Exactly. Azuma says, why is Chris Martin there? Because they are paying him buku bucks to be there, I'm sure. Teacher Ray Samantha says, hi, Brittany. I just want to suggest about some royals in Asia, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia. They also have incredible tiaras and jewelry you might want to discuss in the Crown Report too. I would like to. I just don't have, I kind of have sort of decided until I got more bandwidth, I wasn't going to focus too much outside of Europe. Just because if the Japanese royal family came to the UK, so I got to do some on their tiaras, but I haven't had a chance to do too much just because I don't have the bandwidth, but I would love to do more. Renee says, I'm in British Columbia. The majority of us are either disgusted or disappointed in Markle. Yeah, nobody likes her. No, really, nobody likes her. And she only has herself to blame. And we love a redemption story, especially in the US, but she has to admit fault first. And I just don't know if she can do that. All right, we got Shaz says, that's what they're paying for too. Margaret says, I have not seen any of the speeches. Elaine says, hi, Brittany. Why didn't a veteran induce Harry instead of his wife? Because she needs the mic. She needs to tell us how wonderful he is. So hopefully you will see how wonderful she is for choosing him. Ritz says they still have an invisible layer of protection around them, which has been there from day one. Just maddening. Yes. Prince of Peace says any given Tuesday that could happen. One of the most interesting remarks until you face her in person and watch her operate, then it becomes very clear. Yeah. It's again, I wouldn't mind watching in person to kind of get a good gauge for how people are reacting and stuff. And that's called journalism. Because I know some people like twist it into something else. I'm like, no, it's just about journalism. I'm not as the thing is the Sussex squad people, a lot of them are crazy. And so they think we are as crazy as they are. We are not, guys. We are not. All right, seriously, Mike, thank you so much for the super chat this morning. My corgi is named Pippin Took, just like the Hobbit. Oh, because she is a Hobbit of the Shepherd races. She says hi to little Miss Pippa. I do hope karma will come for Harry and Meghan soon. There's no accountability. Yes. I mean, honestly, I think, and I know people are like, well, Trump won't want to upset Charles or anything. But honestly, it might actually be pretty good of him to face some accountability. And Charles too. Charles too, because Charles is complicit in at least some of this behavior. And somebody else going, no, you can't do this anymore. It might be a wake up call. Actually, both of them need. You can't do this anymore. You can't do this anymore. Like you were a guest in this country, Harry, until you get a green card and go all in. You are a guest of this country. So you need to start acting like it. The Harry has made the mistake of just being a nuisance. He's annoying. He thinks he knows everything. He's trying to be the Prince of America. It's like, we don't want that. We don't want you here. We don't need you here. So you are welcome to stay here, but you're not welcome to try to be larger than you are here. That's just not how it's going to work. Fever Jean says everywhere is home to them. And thank you so much for the super chat. I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Montana and said, we just finished watching the Yellowstone series. It's so good to be home. That's so true. Again, I understand where some place feels like familiar and stuff like that. Like most of my family lives in the Midwest. I live on the East Coast and I've lived elsewhere. I've hardly lived in the Midwest. So I go to the Midwest. It doesn't feel like home. It just feels familiar. But it would be like going there and going, I'm home. I'm not though, because I don't live there. And when I lived there, I was a baby and I don't remember any of living there. So it feels familiar to me, but it's not home. It's a place I visited, a place I stayed, but it's not a place I lived. So, and I did an internship in Scotland. So it would be like going back to Scotland and go, I'm home. I'm not. I've lived there. I enjoyed there. I have a connection there, but it doesn't feel like home. I've lived other places, and some places it might feel somewhat like home, but other places not. So I almost don't really have a home base in the same way that other people do, because our whole family has picked up and moved several times. So if my parents still lived in the same spot, yeah, I might go home and say, well, this is home. And even though I don't live there anymore, but that's not the case. Like, actually, my old childhood home technically burned down, so it doesn't even exist anymore. So it's one of those things where I'm like, okie dokie. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just like such an obvious fabrication. It's just an obvious fabrication. So Brandy Carr says, good morning, everyone. Brittany, thanks for all your hard work. I truly enjoy your streams. Why, thank you. Thank you. All right. Carol says, love mint hot chocolate, hot cocoa. That is good. That is good for sure. Crazy Cat says, it sucks that us Canadians are too kind and won't show Harry and Meghan what we actually feel about them. Everyone just cheers to keep the peace. Yeah, that's not a super big surprise. That's kind of sad. Ritz says, can you maybe use that frother blender to whip up hot chocolate flakes? I'm craving chocolate now. Like I tried, but it didn't totally work. I might try again, but I was like, this is not going to work for this video. Tree Annie says, where are they this year in the UK? They're in Canada. They're in Vancouver and Whistler. Pulong Yulong says, hi from freezing cold Huntington Beach, California. I don't mind being in California right now, even if it is cold. Marjorie says, why not have the concert to help veterans? Because that's what Invictus is turning into, the Harry and Meghan show with celebrities. Exactly. Birmingham is the next stop, but Birmingham has no money. So yeah, and they rely a ton on taxpayer money to put these things on. A ton. And I think the Invictus game's smart because I don't think Trump would have funded it. He would have been, you guys are on your own. If they had chosen Washington, D.C., he'd be going, you're on your own or let me control it. Like, those are the only two options because it's not going to be the Harry and Meghan show here. So they were too cowardly to try. And although it's a great competition, I feel like the expenditure is too much for what it is. It doesn't get the views. It's so yeah. Okay. So, and then we do have Margaret says, as a mom, I have friends in Birmingham who hope she doesn't go there. Yeah, we'll see if Invictus lasts that long. Rob O says, will she be rocking their brown asbestos suit and gloves again? We shall see. We shall see. So Loretta says she said she wasn't going to speak. So why did she? Talk about not reading the room. Yeah. Anne says, Meghan ruined the Invictus games by marching with the veterans. That's why people don't like her. She can't read the room and doesn't know her place. To be fair to Meghan, other people were asked to do that too, who were part of the games. It just didn't really read well, especially with the short like jumpsuit she had on and everything. I think Meghan would be better if she didn't treat it like such a sideshow, such a platform to focus on her fashion. If she seemed to actually care about the veterans, it might have been better. The Canadian Beaver said the repeat articles written about them say we all like them. Yeah, that's sometimes why I'm like, you gotta push back a bit. Cheryl says how much other costs are covered by Invictus. That I don't know, but at least some for sure. I'd say most of probably their travel costs, housing, and everything are paid for by the games. Prince of Peace says, from the royal family to prance around, it was self-recorded about Billie Eilish. She signed for her total lack of awareness. Yeah, that was probably about the stupidest thing Meghan Markle ever did. Yeah. Through the Looking Glass with Alice says, decent article I read the other day. The real story behind Invictus Games is Great Britain. For Great Britain is a working partnership of the Ministry of Defense and the British Royal Legion. Yeah, all of it gets buried. That's why I think they need to be individual to their individual countries and then come together every couple of years. I mean, I don't know why they're doing like these big things every 2 years. Even the Olympics is mostly every 4 years. And even the Olympics doesn't make any money. Karen says, I hear Harry has asked for money to be in Invictus, like $1 million. I don't know that. Thomasina says she's so clueless, and anyone who supports them is just as clueless. She's barking mad and they need to stay in Canada. We'll send the kids with Adoria. Yeah. Jenna says, what is your opinion about Archwell getting millions from USAID? So I'm not, I'd have to look into it myself, but USAID gives money to a lot of people from a variety of places. I think probably what's been reported is well overblown. And it's sometimes where like Harry and Meghan applied for a grant and got the money. That's how USAID works. You apply for a grant and you get the money to support whatever endeavor you're trying to do. So if they applied for the grant and they received the grant, I mean, that's how this thing works. So I don't really fault them for that. You know, USAID, that's another story, but it's like it's out there for everyone with an organization like an NGO and stuff. Like a lot of people can apply for grants. So I know a company I worked for would apply for USAID grants. It's conservative, but it would apply for and get USAID grants. So I am at least somewhat familiar with that process, and it had a broad spectrum. So I would have to look at it myself, but I'm not really that miffed about it because most likely the funds are just funneled through them and then given to somebody else. Like they apply for the funds to get it to fund what have you, and that's sort of how stuff works. The big question is though, what do Harry and Meghan actually do? And I thought the whole point of their organization was that they were going to fund it basically. So I don't know. WD40 says, why did Canada let Meghan into the country? It's our home. She's told us. Carol says, I think Germany did it right by annexing the Invictus Games Germany to support German veterans. Yeah, I think that's better than whatever the heck this has come into. Lady Rid says, if Livestrong can go without Lance Armstrong, then Invictus can go without Prince Harry. That's true. That's true. Rebecca said, would it be possible for you to take a drink and lean back from the microphone, please? Thank you. Well, I'm done with my drink, so. Shaz says, Brittany, do you think the so-called death threats she's received because of the video? I mean, people are dumb on the internet. That's kind of, she's being dumb. Other people are being dumb. It's kind of par for the course. Lizzie B says, I wish another company celebrity would take Another celebration honoring the veterans. If I were to ever win the lottery, I'd create one called Olympus or something like that. It's kind of awesome. Margaret says, will Harry be allowed back into America? Probably, but it would be funny if he wasn't. Maria Harrison says, not watching 1 second of Invictus. That woman sets my teeth on edge, and I hate her whining voice. Miss Smith says she promised to bring the little ones to Canada. She did, so another lie. Sharon says we have to be wary of certain sources. Yes, I would always say that. Be very wary of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes around Harry and Meghan that's just not true or not very verifiable and stuff. So, and this goes on both sides. This goes for pro and anti Harry and Meghan people. So that's why I always go largely, guys, with mainstream sources because they're better. 9/10 of the time. MTE says, why did she make a speech? She's not the patron. Harry is. Because she had to introduce him and then give him a big old smack and kiss. Athena says, staying in a $5,000 night suite in a Swiss hotel, paid for by Invictus. Disgusting. Yes. Sylvia says, look like the Sussex squad got their paychecks. The amount of adulation in Next is nauseating. But here's the thing too. Like I'm kind of, it's kind of dumb because, well, number one, like they're trying to like community note anybody who has a negative perception of Harry and Meghan. It's like, dude, guys, stop community noting. I don't like the community noting people are doing where it's just like they're trying to fight against somebody's opinion. It's called an opinion, people. Like, get real. But the like, I mean, you want to worship your idols and look silly, then go ahead and do that. I don't care. Because I think it just makes them look ever crazier. Because more and more people are wising up to Harry and Meghan. So the dumber the Sussex squad looks for clinging to them. Nemo says, absolutely not. Vancouver and Toronto are the same. That's just Huggies saying anything per usual. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Crazy Cat says that we don't want her in Canada either. No, we really want some. Ritz says, wasn't her home Nigeria? Nope. Harper's one-nighters. I'm so happy to have caught at least a bit of your live loves. Why, thank you. Carol said, great videos on the best and worst royal fashion and analysis of Meghan's tactile. And William was uncomfortable. Spot on analysis. Why, thank you so much, Carol. Sweet of you to say. Sherry says, Meghan needs new outfits. Why would you ever think Victor should be about the veterans? They don't. So true. We have Lowen says, me, mental health worker, talked to my cousin, psychologist, and we had a pretty interesting discussion about a thought. What if Meghan has autism? Autism can show similar behaviors, thoughts. Oh, that's sort of interesting. I don't really think that would be her thing, though, because I think she knows it makes people uncomfortable, but she wants to do it. It's more of a dominance game to her, I think. And so I don't think it's like autism is like not knowing you're making people uncomfortable because you can't read the social cues. I think she knows she makes people uncomfortable and she doesn't care because she wants to do things her way. And I think it could, I guess, kind of reflect autism a bit, but I think her thing is that she's so consumed with self, she can't read somebody else. It's not that she like kind of has that inability because of how the autism brain works, which I feel like is more of their brain just can't function in that particular way. I think it's more for Meghan is that she wants to do, she cannot fundamentally see beyond herself. That's her thing. So that would be, I mean, it's an interesting thought for sure, but that would be more how I would see it. All right. The Canadian Beaver says Harry and Smeg have no idea what makes a Canadian. He's likely thinks we are still a colony. Yeah, he is. I mean, I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm literally saying it because every single article basically calls him dumb. Like the recent ones have all basically said he's kind of a dumb guy. So I think it makes her look bad, to be quite honest, too, because it makes her look like she married the dummy. And that's probably burns her ego, too, a bit, is that everybody thinks he's a dummy. And she's like, but he's like, he is a dummy. And that's why I married him. But don't say that. Nemo says that when the president of the United America calls you a terrible person, maybe it's time to take a step back and work on yourself. Oh, scrambled egg. Trump said this morning he called Meghan terrible. That's so funny. He does not like them. And the thing is, too, Harry and Meghan better just, lay low in the States. Don't do dumb cosplay royal stuff because you will irritate the president of the United States. Water says Trump will not be personally deporting Harry, but if Harry is in trouble with his visa and it ends with him being kicked out of the US, Trump will not protect him. They'll just say, bye bye. Yep, you broke the law. And because Trump would fundamentally undermine his own argument by going, well, his father, yada, yada. Like, if you broke the law, you broke the law, you go home. Yulong says Chris Martin is in crisis fixing mold because he apologized for being British and colonialist. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. People don't need to apologize for being who they are. And sometimes there are losers and winners in history. That's just kind of how it is. I hate to say it, but that's kind of the reality of the situation. There are people who lose and people who win. And the winners write the history. That's sort of a saying in history. History is written by the victors. That's true. Adopt GDX says, good morning, RNN family. Carol says, Harry is between the frying pan and the fryer. Yes. Prince of Peace says, I really don't believe she ever will be successful without the prince, unfortunately for her. Yep. Grushin the First says, Trump doesn't really have to personally do anything to Harry. Let Kristi Noem, Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, do it if you feel the need to kick Harry's behind out. Yes. Water said, at least for the British royals, they have created so many charities and are donating so much money. So you wouldn't want the way they would happen to those. Yeah. They have built, they're much more stable. And the British royals actually fulfill a function. Harry and Meghan don't fulfill a function in the same way. They're doing it. They try to do it as if they're royals, like working royals, but they're not. So it's kind of weird. Azima says, is King Harold and Queen Sonia monarchy in trouble? Chances of represent of keeping it because of their son. I think it's more unstable than some of the others now. We shall see. Spice Rack says taking a play out of Kamala Harris's playbook and invite Beyonce so people will show up works out till she doesn't even sing. Charlatans. Yeah, just a little bit. Ocean Gal says, plus he's taking taxpayer money. As soon as we know if he lied on his visa, law say bye-bye. That's it, right. That's right. I'm not saying I've never been one of like being like super harsh about it, but like, if the whole bit of the administration right now is that we are getting rid of people who are here illegally or people who are here and did something illegal in the process, then yeah, you should go home. You come to this country legally, and that's perfectly fine. It's sometimes a long process, but that's sort of life. Loretta says, I don't think the king would like it. So I've been saying this all over, but Harry and Meghan should take their 2 children and move to Portugal for 2 years, for a few years. Probably. American Woman says, okay, to all my UK friends, what is the latest trend of calling Brits colonialists in your own country? Aren't you all American in your own country? You are indigenous people. You didn't colonize yourselves. It's complicated. It's complicated. This fan says, good morning, Brittany. Did you know it's a Christmas card? Yes. So I think we covered that earlier. Nina says the worse politicians get, the more popular monarchies will be. Politicians have proven to be untrustworthy, and that's why monarchies are becoming more in the public eye. A bit. And I also think I actually watched Brett Cooper's video about this, and so I kind of want to do a video about this anyways. But the other thing that's happening, which has been really fascinating, is sort of the downfall of celebrities. And she covered this a bit in a recent video. And I think that's true. Celebrities are highly unliked because they've ruined the mystique of themselves. They've opened their mouths and we see the truth and we're like, oh, we don't really like you. Because think about it. Basically, every celebrity went for Kamala Harris and she didn't win. So their ability to influence things is diminishing. And I think actually what is replacing it is actual royalty, because royalty still has a mystique. They still have the class and stuff. And so I think sometimes people are gravitating more towards royals because royals represent something greater. Harper's Nider says, I love this channel. Why, thank you. So Miss says, in Poland, some politicians wanted to restore monarchy and crown Jesus as our king. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Stepanka says, hi, everyone, enjoying live from the Czech Republic. Why, thank you. So Susie says, unfortunately, Trump thinks he has more power than he does. Also, Trump truly has more to deal with as president than worry about some faux royals in the U.S. But Harry, though, the thing I will say about Trump is he can, unlike some, he can really multitask. So he can definitely, I think, get behind the the Harry and Meghan thing, especially if they annoy him. So Harry and Meghan, my advice to you is stay low. Gretchen the First says, every time I hear about Harry and Meghan as American royalty, I think we didn't throw a tea party in Boston Harbor to avoid crap like these people. Exactly. Jessica Thorne Quintolas says, glad to see Princess Sophia of Sweden finally get a little girl. Yeah, me too. I think that's kind of cool. Again, like, not that she wouldn't have been so excited to have any child, but I think it's so nice that she had a girl. Because she has 3 boys, and so it's like, you have, like, this child and you're 40 now, you weren't expecting to be pregnant again, and then you get a joy of a girl. Elle says, "Do you think Harry and Meghan will take a salary for the Invictus Games?" They might. They definitely maybe get an appearance fee. Margaret says, "The only people who get attention is the Sussexes, not the athletes." Exactly, that's part of the problem. Ciao Bella says, "But there was a British Empire, and that's what Chris is apologizing for." So, yeah, there were a lot of other empires too. The thing that's interesting about, especially like sub-Saharan Africa and stuff like that, is that there simply weren't written records that existed. So they might have been as bad on a smaller scale as the Europeans, because human beings are human beings. Doesn't matter where they are, humans are humans. So this whole thing that the Europeans should hold all this burden and guilt and everything. I really don't think they should. We just happen to end up being the most powerful in this situation. Now, everything could switch over at some point. The Chinese could have done it, but they went more isolationist. So Jean Rock Dion says, "You're welcome, but most of us will be happy to see the population take their responsibility." Yeah. Elizabeth says, "Hi, all. Just got back from the holidays in Canary Islands. It's freezing back here in the UK. I see it took Meghan 30 seconds to grab a mic and talk about herself with Invictus. At least she's consistent. She is very consistent." Old school millennial says, "Brittany, besides Princess Catherine, what other royal would you absolutely want to take a photo with someday? Who do you think would leave a stronger legacy after passing? Diana or Catherine, or equal?" I actually think, in response to the second question, I actually think it would be Catherine, because Diana, although she had this big impact and legacy, she had a pretty short life, and so because of that, I think her impact is diminishing over time. That's sort of naturally what happens. Catherine will have much longer impact. So I think because she's lived longer, she'll be actually consort to William and all these sorts of things. So I think her impact might be longer, but it remains to be seen. When it comes to what royal I would take a picture with, probably like everyone, I'd love to get a shot with Maxima. That would be fun. I would love to get a shot with basically anyone, maybe Mary, like so many, like pretty much everybody. If I could take a selfie with somebody wearing a tiara, that would be awesome, but that's not gonna happen. So, I need to uh, relieve myself of that dream. Now, if I was super dorky, I would have, when Mary was walking back with the tiara at the state visit to Denmark, I would have taken a selfie as she was walking past, but I didn't, because that would be wildly unprofessional. But did I think about it? Yes, I did. I did. So I would love a selfie with pretty much any royal. And so next time I get a selfie with a royal, guys, that'll go up as my number one picture. I might start like collaging it out. But the problem too is I do like to serve as an actual like press person. And I do that because you kind of get sort of away from the crowd. Your stuff is a bit more secure. You don't have to get there quite as early a lot of times. So I'd prefer to be the press person than to be somebody in the crowd again. Because I was waiting there for hours. I had a nice guy I was chatting with. I think he lived in the States, but he's originally from York, I think it was. So I had a great chat with him, but waiting for Catherine and William. But like it was a long day. It was a long day. Prince of Peace asks, Brittany, did you meet Dan Wooten in person last year? No, I moved so fast that I missed the chance. Wendy says, good morning. Mary Deal says, question, have you seen the connection between USAID and Archwell? I have, but I'd have to look into it myself. So Azima says, any name yet for the girl? No. They will announce it at the cabinet meeting, and I think at the same time they announce her dukedom. So we shall have to wait probably next week. And then the christening will be sometime in the spring, later spring. So it's usually 10 to 15 weeks post-birth. So it could be in May or June, or maybe even April and May. It might be more April, May. Can't quite remember now, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, That's why. I was thinking, because we do have some state visits coming up that might sort of coincide with each other, and I might try to follow them. So we shall see. Because we do have a state visit for Charles and Camilla in early April. And we do have a state visit for King Frederick and Queen Mary in France that goes from March 31st to April 2nd. So we got a possibility there. Mary Sasser, because I like to have things that are kind of at the same time so I can kind of combine things together. Instead of for Harry and Meghan, why not show the veterans beforehand? You would think, right? Clyde says, why won't they understand? What they don't understand is that the ex-royals have done is turn Invictus into a joke. I won't support. Yeah. It's sad. Nick says, could Harry pursue an annulment if things don't pan out with Meghan as rare as they are? It could potentially bar her from cashing in on the end of the marriage. It would cancel the kids' titles too. Probably at this point, I don't think he could get away with that unless it's like a truly huge thing. Yeah. Wendy says, what Shakespearean play could be staged to represent modern royals? Richard III or Macbeth? Oh man, I don't know him enough to tell you. Oh, that's a great question, though. I like that question, Wendy. You encouraged me to go. I actually do have somewhere some Shakespeare books that I got with all his plays, but I haven't really read them. I had to memorize part of like Romeo and Juliet in high school, and I kind of sort of hated it. But I think it comes from sometimes like the harder language is a bit harder for me because I think I have a bit of ADD. So it's like if it's like makes my brain try to focus too much, I'm like, oh, because I'm like I need constant stimulation. It seems like Haley says I think they should do pre-games programming where they talk to the veterans who are competing, even if it's just a few minutes. Exactly. I think there's a lot more they can do, and they're just not doing it. Michelle says, since the UK people keep claiming Harry and Meghan are no longer royals, why do the royals commentators comment? Aren't the royals doing anything noteworthy? They are, but I believe and strongly want to point out time and time again that Harry and Meghan, because of their association and they're using their titles, are undermining the foundations of the monarchy. So it's important to highlight that and call that out because some people, like maybe you, don't understand the differences. And so I enjoy calling this out and showing what the real royals do. That's why I have the Crown Report if you want to watch that. I try to also draw some comparisons between Meghan and other royals and explaining how she's not doing things correctly. So I've done that. I actually have a whole video series, if you haven't watched it, on Meghan's blunders, where I go over all the immense blunders that she has made pre-royal, post-royal, and during royal times. Although I had to do more post-royal. I did mix, so I did, and which have all done incredibly well, by the way, guys. I'm shocked at how well they do. But so royal mistakes. So we have royal mistakes, Mexit mistakes, and then we have pre-wedding mistakes or whatever. And I go through and I explain the problems and why this is something that I think is reacted to people is that I want the monarchies to survive, and Harry and Meghan are going to make that very difficult. So it's important to call them out. And by necessarily calling them out, you can also call to attention how they're not doing things the way other royals do. Also, at the same time, too, at least for me, because I am not there in person to cover events like I would like to be, I can't really commentate on them in the same way because there's things to report and discuss, but not necessarily in the same way because they're doing their job, which is sometimes like all jobs not super exciting really. But Harry and Meghan, there's a lot of criticize, so there's a lot of content there, and I would love to be able to record a lot more royal events, but I don't always get the chance. Thomasina says, I disagree. Monarchies have fallen dramatically since the 20th century. They are considered outdated. I don't really think so. It's how you adjust them. Old school millennial, I'm surprised how many Americans, even myself, before discovering Royal News Network, who don't know Scandinavia and Japan have royal families. The whole world mainly knows the British royals. Yes, I would say a lot of you have commented that you didn't know a lot about the other royals until I started talking about them, which is awesome. And again, check out the Crown Report. We do live streams. I'm going to put, again, the smaller segments on another channel. So hopefully those keep getting better. And so we do have, I just want to check something here real quick. Why didn't they use Netflix to develop, showcase the vet stories released over time leading to the Invictus and then Netflix to show the competitions? I don't know. I think they played Heart of Invictus wrong. There were parts where it were compelling, parts where it was boring. They left the most interesting stories on the table to focus on things I didn't really give two craps about. So Harry and Meghan, I think, have an inability to tell a good story. Romeo Victorio says, my partner loved going to Whistler skiing. He loved the Canadian people. My father married a lovely woman from Vancouver. Great memories. Aw. So let's see. Lizzie B says, I was cooking while watching your video. You helped me not get bored cutting vegetables. I was agreeing with everything you said, Ms. Brittany. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. Sorry, guys. I had some allergies developed last night, so I'm a bit sniffly. Carol says there are no secrets in the workplace. There are not. And so if you're seeing that kind of stuff and it makes you increase questions, like it reflects badly on everyone. So good for William again for recognizing that and trying to adjust it. Lizzie says, Brittany, I agree having those boundaries. I think so too. I don't know why every office doesn't do that because it does actually protect everyone. It protects people from false accusations. It protects people from true true situations and stuff. Caroline says those off 5 rules can be a bit much if they do protect everyone. Yeah, they can be a bit much, but they do actually protect everyone. Gretchen the First says Billy Graham may have been the first to have the rule of never being alone in a room with a woman. Everyone mocks stuff like that. It seemed uptight and foolish until it was proven smart. Exactly, because actually it protects both of the people involved. It protects a woman from maybe advancements by the man, and it protects the man from maybe false accusations by a woman. So it actually protects everyone involved. And yes, it might seem archaic. Yes, it might seem old school and old fashioned. But when you really think about it, it's actually really kind of a great way to go about things, because what you don't want, even if it's totally untrue, is speculation that damages people who are in a relationship, in a marriage. And so eliminate the speculation. You can do that by simply avoiding situations where everybody kind of looks that it could be interpreted poorly, I guess you could say. Azima says it's like the lip gloss thing with Catherine. Yes. So as somebody said, Wendy, you were so right. Meghan asking Catherine for her lip gloss, a story told by Harry, where Harry blamed it being an American thing. It's not Harry. It's a weird, creepy Meghan Markle thing. It's actually a D-list actress thing. It's something another actress would do to another actress right before she would go on to an audition to throw her off her game. And that doesn't surprise me at all that Meghan would do something like that. Because Meghan can't stand on her own laurels. She has to undermine another woman in order to do that. Ocean Gal says, once she shows the kids, the merch value goes down. They're not the Wales' children. And I think people won't care enough about Meg's kids, so there's no connection to the kids. Yeah, I think Meghan and Harry really haven't played that wrong. And it says, yes, Brittany, but William can't stand Meghan, and rightfully so. Yeah. Michelle says, you guys want Harry and Meghan to go away, but you can't stay away from him. What is with that? If they would go away and the media would do its real job, then we would probably stop talking about them. There's so many other things I want to talk about, but I just don't get the time because there's so much, I think, to discuss and lessons to be learned from Harry and Meghan. Like the best lesson to learn from Harry and Meghan is be careful who you marry, because you might marry a crazy psychopath, and that's probably not a good idea. Just exaggerating a little bit. But there is no way where anybody would watch the relationship with Harry and Meghan and the fact that he's dumped his entire family, all his friends, in order to please her and say that's a healthy relationship. That is not a healthy relationship. CG says, we are starting to hear the inside stories. When Meghan said the royal family sticks with a stiff protocol in private, she really meant that they told her to respect others' personal space. Exactly. Rosalie said, good morning from Manila, Philippines. I think Meghan is a major cringe, but I cannot believe she'd flirt with the future king of England and an older brother of her husband. But see, I think it might not have been flirting for like romantic sake. It might be just how she tries to interact with men to get her way. And so if she's doing that, William's like, I'm onto your game here. Don't stop doing this. And like, I see my brother-in-law. Do I walk up and hug him every time? No. Why? Because that would be weird. Both of us would think that's weird, by the way. I think both of us would think that's weird. Certain situations, yeah, that might seem appropriate, but most situations, no. Rich says, when people say I'm a hugger or I'm an open book, I'm like, okay, enjoy that. Doesn't mean I am or have to. Yes. Shaz says, when you stop using their titles, we will stop calling them out. Michelle wins. So if you don't want to like that, tell them to stop using those titles. That too. Because I just feel like when they use their titles, they want us, sorry, my nose is bothering me, want us to like, I don't know, like worship them or something and go, oh, those royals, they're so lovely. No. Brandy Carr says, I'm guilty. I'm a hugger. But I do try to give people space because I know some people don't want to be touched. Yeah. And Meghan saw the reaction and still went for it. I think that's the thing. Creative Chaosify says, I love photos Louis' photo of Catherine. Do you think he has his mother and grandfather's artistic talent? He might. I kind of hope so. I kind of love that she did that. And I think it's sort of amazing. And her quote there was, "You have to think of what lies beyond the disease," which I think is such a great thing because some people can wallow in in their cancer or in their disease or their disability or something like that. And it's like you have to move beyond that. And I think that's a great thing. Marjorie says, "Well, oh, that's what I should have added to the bingo card. Will she or won't she wear Invictus merch? Not until she at least gets a cut of the profits." Yeah, she never wears Invictus merch, which is literally the lowest hanging fruit for promotion is merchandise. Literally the lowest hanging fruit, and she doesn't do it. It drives me nuts. Old school millennial says, "Brittany, you are not approved. I'm the same as you when it comes to hugs from even church friends and definitely opposite sex. Light hugs if you know them really well. Handshakes mostly for me." Yeah, I was like when he went in for a hug, I was like, really? Really? But Prince of Peace says the Sussexes have successfully made everyone appreciate the Waleses because the contrast is outstanding. It is. It is. And you highlighting that I think is a good thing. Water says, "Do you think she'll run with the Nigeria team as her princess?" Funny thing, big thing on Nigerian culture, family bonds, something she knows nothing about. Yeah, it's I just don't understand why people don't see that, like, it's so fake. Like, she doesn't care about Nigeria. She went there literally because they were willing to host her and give her some attention. Like, Caroline says, "Azima, that is gorgeous, Azima, cleaning with your mom. My mom passed when I was really young. I hardly remember her. I miss my cuddly son. He's married and I don't see him as much." Aw. I'm so sorry, Gretchen. I missed your thing here. Member for 9 months says, "Best karma ever for Meghan, a U.S. visit with Trump by William and Catherine for the 250th celebrations here in the U.S. in 2026. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Got to really work, guys, on trying to. I have applied. I mean, obviously, they've said they have like 12,000 applications. So that's a little overwhelming for some of the spots in the press room. But I would just love, I mean, I have contacts I can mine. I'm just trying to slowly get through that process. But the idea is I would just love press credentials for an event like that. I was just like, that would be awesome because I like getting pictures. We do have, there would be a big investment. So I'd have to bide my time. But Canon has come out with new cameras, which I'm so excited. I mean, I think I'll have actually somebody accompanying me for September to hopefully cover the Luxembourg inauguration of the new Grand Duke. But when it comes to like the United States, like just the ability, like the Canons now have cameras that can do pictures and videos at the same time, which is amazing because I'm so bummed sometimes that I didn't get videos when I should have and stuff. But it's hard because you kind of have to choose one or the other. And pictures are expensive. And so when I have my own cache of pictures, it's sort of kind of awesome to have that, but I want video too. So hopefully I'm gonna have somebody run my video for me this time, which is gonna be very exciting because then I can focus on getting the pictures because it's complicated to get the pictures. That camera is complicated, but they have like new lenses that are more like cinematic lenses and kind of do the dual purpose thing very, very much better than others. So yeah. Michael says Trump response to the New York Post about deporting Harry. I don't want to do that. I'll leave him alone. He's got enough problems with his wife. She's terrible. I mean, imagine though that like it comes back and things are bad and he's looking at it and Trump goes to Harry, "Ah, you can stay, bud. Your wife is horrible enough. That's punishment for you." Oh man, there's just something kind of amazing about that. Mademoiselle Rhapsody says William fluffed and arranged that scarf to avoid Meghan when they exited a church. It was obvious to all except Meghan, of course. Yeah, he definitely he does not like her at all. He does not like her at all. And just think about it. He, I think, is definitely very annoyed and just probably really exacerbated by her behavior. And he's like, "No, I'm not, I don't even care enough to put up pretenses. I can't stand you," is basically what he was saying with that scarf. Creative Chaosify says, "What's the deal with Edo's ex? Apparently she made some bitter comments about being a single parent." That I don't know. I haven't been following that, but I mean, it would depend on where she, like, if she said it to a friend and they leaked it to the press, that's one thing. But if you're putting that out on social media, that's probably not the best idea. Kay and Meta says, "Do you think Prince Harry should divorce Meghan and declare fraud as a reason for divorce?" That would be interesting. Reading Nook says, "Anyone have thoughts about if she will bring the kids along to Invictus today?" Apparently not. They're going to cheer them on from California. No, I know they're probably not because they're probably playing games or something because the Kids don't really want to watch this. Isaac Texas says, Brittany, I think Catherine's wish for less emphasis on her wardrobe and more on her work is great. Do you? I think it's impossible. It's not going to happen. They've tried this before. It doesn't work. So it's a great thought in theory. It's just not going to happen because really, for royal women, their greatest power is their wardrobe. It is. It is. We will never concentrate as much on their work as we will their wardrobe. That's just simply the truth. So when it comes to like the men, they do stuff we don't concentrate on it as much. Why? Because we don't really care about men's wardrobe. So when it comes to the ladies, like infinitely more, we are interested in what they're wearing. As a result, we will tend to care more about what they're wearing. We will watch more of what they're wearing. The men we don't care as much about. So I think it's good in theory, but it's not gonna actually work. I hate to say it. I know that burst some people's bubble, but it's not gonna happen. It's just not. I swear, guys, they tried this early on in her marriage, did not work. It's not gonna work this time. They'll probably go back to the same standard. Like, and the thing is with royal women as well, is that they can tell a story through their clothing. And clothing is powerful. So I think they're dismissing some of that. And really honestly, people will probably never care as much about the work as they will what she wears because it's a very visual thing what you wear. Now, if she decided, let's say, to wear the same thing to every engagement, she could maybe pull that off. But I think actually there would be less press interest in her engagements if she wears the same thing all the time. That's just the reality of the situation. Don't denounce the power of your wardrobe. There's a lot of power there. There's a lot of power there. And I know she wants people to think of more than her clothing, but really her clothing is a huge part of being a royal. For women, it's a huge part of being royalty. Is being able to choose your clothing well. Tanya Green says, I agree. They have inflated sense of self-importance. Yes. So this is to a comment of asthma. Comments are next are not death threats. They are not. They are not. They are not. So Isaac Texas says, I would be more concerned about with those who are gushing constantly than negative comments. Those aren't death threats. No, they are not. But they just can't see that. So, yeah, Carol says, I think Meghan is confusing criticism and bullying comments. Meghan feels she is the most trolled person in the entire world, but most of the comments are criticism. Yeah, exactly. You'll notice now what I think is sort of getting into the bullying realm is like making fun of her appearance, like, you know, her limbs or her nose or her hair or whatever like that. You guys notice I don't comment really on like if she has a wig. I know a lot of people make comments about that. Her legs. I mean, I say that they're kind of not her best feature because they're too skinny. And so they just your brain kind of goes, oh, just a little bit. But like, and I address like issues with fashion that you obviously see. But some people are like, there was one post I saw somebody make one time where I'm like, that's so inappropriate. Like it was sexualized and stuff. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Because that's really you are delving into the bullying territory there. Keep comments and criticisms to their actions, to their wardrobe in terms of, let's say, it's being inappropriate for the event or not obviously fitting her or being wrinkled, stuff like that. Don't make fun. It's called an ad hominem argument. So you will notice this. If somebody, I mean, probably the greatest example is probably Donald Trump. If they make fun of him for being orange, well, I mean, yeah, he might be orange sometimes, but that's actually an ad hominem argument. You're not actually making fun of the argument. You're making fun of the person. There's a difference there. You have like, I don't care if he's orange or green or blue or whatever. You know, the only thing I care about with somebody who is president is, are they doing a good job? That's the metric. And so if you're delving into these arguments that just solely rely on personal attacks rather than criticism of actions, then you are in the realm of bullying and criticism. So some of that does exist definitely against Harry and Meghan, and their Sussex Squad people do it constantly. But again, I think Harry and Meghan could, I mean, she started the negativity online. She's the one who started it in the royal community. It existed before then. It went to up to 11 with Meghan, and half the people who are, and more than half, probably vast majority of the people who are on the Sussex Squad guys solely are there because of her race. That's the only reason. If she didn't use her race to try to deflect criticism, like most of that would not exist. Most of it would not exist. She's the one who started it because she's the one who wanted it. And she has it, but it's turned decisively negative, and many people who are part of that look increasingly kind of unhinged. So not very much, not great. Monarchy says, have you seen the Invictus speech? Intro speech. Thoughts? It's a meandering mess of word salad nonsense, and half of it was probably lies and exaggerations. Like, do I really believe that Harry and Meghan, in the bustle of the morning, trying to get their kids ready for school, and that Harry gets on the phone for the Invictus games, and Archie's like, "Papa, what are you doing?" No, I don't believe that. I should have said that and then gone immediately like this to make the point. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that in the slightest. Sorry, I think that's a lie. Maybe some of that is true, but I think some of it's an exaggeration. Tom Quinn says, anyone explain? Yeah, he wrote a book and it's being excerpted, excerpts of it are in the Times. Yeah. Chatty Cathy says, I'm a confessed hugger, but I'm respectful and hug other huggers. Yes, find another hugger. Like, find somebody who also loves to be hugged and hug them. Loretta says, I stopped listening to sports talk radio when the Eagles were 2-2. There was too much hate. Of course, they won their next 10 games. Go Eagles. Awesome. Elizabeth says, has everyone heard the big news? Meghan knows what a lunchbox is. Now knows what a lunchbox is. Woo. Barbara says, they are so concerned with people of Los Angeles and work so hard for the people. They had now to go on vacation to Bermuda, or is it the Bahamas? I heard it was the Bahamas. And again, it goes back to the thing of Meghan does incredibly stupid things. She makes such a fuss about delaying her show. And then she proceeds to go to a friend's party. She's now going to the Invictus games, which she was always going to do. And now she is going to the Bahamas. And so it's like, do you give two craps about like the California wildfires? Because it honestly doesn't look like you do. All right. Peeper Jean says the conversation with air, bingo square. Yes. She likes conversing with air. Not everybody's all that interested in her sometimes. And she doesn't have that much to add. She really doesn't. Ritz says, oh, and she would have something to add, guys. I think her addition to the Invictus games could be the merch. Could be the merch. And I like, there's certain shows and stuff I like that I would like to wear their merch more just to like support. Cause like if you buy stuff, you're telling the brand or the company or whatever that you support this product. But I don't like something that's so overt. I like it if it's a bit more pared back a bit. And so it's like she could come up with some really cool things, but she doesn't. She doesn't. Ritz says she threatened to dump him if he did not publicize the way they were together, and Dum Dum fell for it. Could have walked away, mush for brains. Yeah, exactly. And I think everybody, like, again, you have to give people credit, and I know people don't want to, but when it comes to Harry and Meghan, I think the royal staff generally wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt and really believed what she was saying. And she was just not being truthful. Caroline Lane says, I censor myself on social media, especially Facebook. I'm always aware someone I work with may see it and report me at work. Corporate world is a minefield. I don't comment on politics, especially on Facebook. I don't really either, mostly because I don't think people care that much. Mostly because is it really all that helpful? I don't know. Michelle Crossing says, Monster Energy is a major sponsor, and I can assure you that we have gone absolutely everything to make the games fantastic, the best ever. The participants will have a wonderful experience. So yes, I am sure the competitors will have a wonderful experience. Unfortunately, nobody will know because it all becomes about Harry and Meghan. That's the problem. That is the problem. And because it becomes about Harry and Meghan, it results in people being less interested in it. It, by its very nature, is a smaller niche audience for broadcasters anyways. I don't think they have a broadcast distributor for this. And it's a complex thing. But I think what Harry and Meghan do, the disservice they do to the games, is that they make it all about themselves. And people don't like them. And because they don't like them and they make the games all about themselves, they get a smaller audience. That's just kind of the thing. Diane says, hi, everyone. And Brittany, we're getting snow tonight in New Hampshire, but I'm listening, but we're getting ready for the day. Yes, make sure you always prepare for snow. I'm sure in New Hampshire you probably do. So don't need me to say. Skippy the Mouse says, if you learned the royal family rules, it's a respect thing. They don't show affection in public. They do it more in private. But if you follow the rules of family, you are joining. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the respect thing, like she wanted them to respect her, but she never gave them respect in return. You can't demand respect when you don't give it. She never gave them respect. She thought everything they did was dumb and silly and stupid and all these sorts of things. That's generally how she acted. And the result is the royals, like, they don't respect her either. So how can she expect to have a voice and go, well, I need to have a voice. I need to have a spot at the table. But she doesn't respect them enough to just do the simple things. Let's say not hug the future king of England every time you see him. Maybe that makes him uncomfortable. Lizzie said, did Sophia have a baby girl? Yeah, yes, she did. Princess Sophia of Sweden. She had a baby girl on Friday. So they announced it pretty quickly. So things must be going well. And apparently the boys are happy to meet their new sister. So K Dev says MT MTV. Oh, sorry guys. Towards the end of these, I was like, oh, okay. TMZ. Gosh. Oh gosh. Bit of dyslexia there, switching, I think, the letters. Oh, good. Goodness gracious is me. Making fun of them again on the royal roast. That's hysterical. I mean, you could have that royal roast going for a long time. Judy says it feels like home because she has all her servants and yes people with her, all the comforts of home for her. So true, so true. Azima says, does Meghan ask the parents' permission before taking pictures of their kids? She would have, like, if she's publicizing it in that way, she would have to. We have Red Boot M54. Why, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you think the stage 5 hugging could also be a way of Meghan to pull royals down to her level? All the deference is an ancient acknowledgement of the monarchy is set above by God. Yeah, I could definitely see that because Meghan, and we know this, has a disdain for the hierarchy of the monarchy. But that's how monarchies work. If you don't want to live in a hierarchy, you don't marry into a monarchy. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. So she wants to dominate them and she wanted to push her ideals on them. And she did that in part by hugging. So she knew, I think it made them uncomfortable and it hurt her feelings, but she didn't really care to understand that they live differently and that to them that was uncomfortable because she didn't earn it. She didn't earn it. She was just forcing it on them. So they needed to figure out like how to she didn't really take the time to understand like the deference, the respect that, hey, you should curtsy to Charles every time you see him. Don't give him a hug, curtsy to him. That might seem silly. I get it. It might seem silly. But that is how in their family they show respect to each other. And that there is a love there in the respect, which I don't think Meghan understood. There is a love there. It's not her particular type of love, the love she wants to receive or give, but that's how they do it. So she has to respect that is how they do it. She might not like it, but that's what the royal family does. That's what they do. And so she needs to stop like this whole thing of trying to force everybody down to her level and just accept that people are different. And that's perfectly fine. But if she can't accept that people are different, then and that maybe they don't want to approach things in the same way she does, then that's a her issue. Peggy Spungen says Meghan should have asked Billie Eilish to perform at the Invictus games when she was getting the merch. Yeah. So Azima says, unlike the Sussex squad, I am fine being wrong. How else will I learn? Exactly. Exactly. Christina says, except for England, she will never claim that again. No, she will not. So Heather says, it sounds like their marriage is really in bad shape if they need to go to the Bahamas to repair. I don't know necessarily if things are in like in bad shape, but like she's definitely spiraling over the bad press. Like she, I'm sure, is freaking out about it. So Gail says maybe Trump will get them for money laundering through charity. I mean, I really don't think, guys. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Anne says, I will never forget Harry's statement about the First Amendment. He said it's bonkers. How can he expect to be like or respected? Yeah, if it's bonkers, then he doesn't get it. Free speech is a wonderful thing. He wants to control speech. He wants to be King Henry VIII and make everybody love his wife. And this is just not going to happen. Water says, I was born in Pittsburgh, only lived there a year. And yes, I visited a lot when I was younger, but it wasn't home. It wasn't. I just find it so weird that she's like, oh, I feel like I'm home. But then why don't you live there anymore? You left as soon as you could. Denial is a deep river. Meghan casually mentioning her kids' lunchboxes as if she didn't say how she didn't know what a lunchbox was. Yeah, it's so dumb. She just lies about the dumbest things. Well, it's just like she's trying to craft a story. It's like, stop crafting stories. Just talk. Old school millennial, just for fun. What realm would you like to be a princess of? Goodness, this is tough. Depends on the tiaras. So when it comes to tiaras, especially because they're more generous, I would have to go with either Sweden or the Netherlands because they are more likely to share their tiaras than other royal families. Now, granted, if you are not the queen, you don't get quite as many opportunities. So I would like to be the crown princess of wherever I'm at, and just putting that out there. Uh because I want more access to stuff at some point. So, like, definitely the Netherlands or Sweden. Sweden is just so cool because it has so many tiaras that are connected to the court of Napoleon, which I think is fantastic. It's just so unique and interesting. So, Carol says, "Why would we host Invictus games when we have wounded warriors?" Exactly. Devon Lee says, "I don't get how journalists are not focusing on why a foreign prince is receiving millions of taxpayer dollars, even if Canadians paying again." Well, I mean, guys, probably again, a lot of USAID money went places. So I think it's somewhat of what people are talking about. It's a bit overblown, to be quite honest. Chantal says, don't you think Harry will never let Meghan use the kids? The one thing they will clash about, or will he even please her in that? I don't know. That's a great question, though. That's a great question. That's a great question. Heather says, "Hey, Brittany, when do you think you'll start your royal history channel?" Gosh, I want to like do it so bad. I kind of had this idea to do it. Sorry. Ah, I had this idea to do it more of shorts. So I may go back to that. It's just hard because it's like I need to start. So I've kind of had this plan this year to start trying to bring on people to offload some of the things so I can work on having the more of the creative side. I have an idea maybe for like more of a podcasting because I like the idea of being more like history podcasty thing type thing. But I would love to do, I would love to get more content. Like I would need to do like at some point like a trip to Europe just to get like B-roll footage and content for whatever video I would do. Cause like I could buy some video, but I'd prefer to get my own because I know what exactly I am looking for. So hopefully we'll say that in the future. I know other people don't do that because it's just something of seeing something and being there, of like walking through it that gives you such a greater experience. And I do have my little gimbal thing. Is it? I don't have it up here. Um, which I really liked. If you are a member, you've seen some of the content with that. Ends up being really good. It's not perfect, but it ends up being pretty good. Creative Chaosify says, "Do you think Megan's wardrobe for these games will exceed 200,000?" Probably not, but they will be quite pricey. I mean, remember, guys, last time she brought 7 sticking coats for like 2 days and 3 nights. That's a lot of goats. Rebecca says, "Hi, Brittany. Does she not read how much people can't stand her? I wouldn't have the nerve to show up, much less take the mic. How do they not know?" Like she knows, but she just, I think her unbelievably worst feature, one of her worst qualities is, and which is why she's perpetually miserable, is that if she thinks she talks more, people will finally start to like her. And that's just not how things work. It's not how things work. So yeah. Creative Chaosify says, "Do the working royals have any upcoming trips?" We actually have quite a few. So if you check out the latest edition of the Royal Wire, which is the newsletter I do, it's actually on Substack. I link it in every video, but maybe I'll put it in the report here. I do have some of the stuff we know, and I need to do a what's coming up type thing. We do know King Frederick and Queen Mary are going to be they're doing a state visit to Finland March 4th and 5th. We have a lot coming up in March for, oh, and I gotta look and see if that coincides now that I think about it. We have a lot coming up in March for King Wilhelm Alexander, Queen Maxima. They have 2 state visits. There's 2 state visits too for Mary and Frederick. So one at the beginning of March, one at the end of March. Charles and Camilla are going to Italy at the beginning part of April, but we didn't get exact dates. So that's why I'm thinking that the Frederick and Mary and Charles and Camilla thing might somewhat be close enough where I could do both. And honestly, guys, I haven't been to Rome since 2004, and I would love to go back. Would love to go back to Rome. One of the things that's been so fun about this channel and everything is like I went to these places like eons ago, and I, either due to funds or lack of travel or whatever, I haven't been able to go back. So it's been kind of fun because it's like I get to go back to the places I went like, eons ago. And it's around the time of my birthday too. So I was like, oh, I could just maybe do like one night or two in a really nice hotel. There's like a resort hotel thing there in Rome that was actually not terribly expensive compared to the other hotels in the area. So I was like, do I want to stay here? There's a nice outdoor pool. I don't know how warm it'll be in April. Let me know. because that might be fun. Patty Pride says, all I care about is that how many tickets have been sold. Let's see how Harry has run the Invictus games into the ground. So here's the thing. It's hard. The individual events might be very sparsely attended, but the two main events, the opening and closing ceremonies, will probably be pretty attended. But that's because of the musical guests, not the veterans themselves. So it's kind of, it's, to me, it's sort of deceptive because you're saying, oh, everybody's like, whoever the guy was from the Canadian Armed Forces was saying, everybody's here for the veterans. It's like, no, they're not. They're here for the musical guests. There's a difference. And I think it's and yes, they may be encouraged by the veterans, and I hope they are, the people who attend. But I think it's totally disingenuous to the veterans to tell them those people are there for you. They're not there for you. They're there for Chris Martin, Katy Perry, and a couple other people who are there. That's why they're there. A lot of them, not all of them, but at least some of them are there for simply the musical guests, not other things, just that. So maybe, just maybe, like I feel like it's sort of lying and deceptive to them to tell them something else. Skippy the Mouse says, if they are so worried about the kids' security, are they back in California? Keep us guessing. Are they in Canada, California? Are they backstage in disguise? Guess they aren't that scared. No. Gretchen the First says she is a narcissist. The hugging and disrespecting boundaries is about control and need for attention. Yes. Wine Tron Born. My goodness, get over it. Harry chose a biracial husband, not Biffy or Buffy. Nobody gives a crap about the color of her character. See, the thing that I notice about people obsessed with Meghan Markle is that the only reason you care is because of the color of her skin. That's the only reason that you put that much focus on her. If she was any other woman, you wouldn't care. Honestly, I don't care. I just see the content of her character. That is what I'm looking at, and that's what I see. Is somebody who doesn't respect her husband because she doesn't respect his family. She didn't respect his country, his traditions, that she doesn't actually, she seems to be a liar and a hypocrite a lot of times. She's saying things that are clearly not true. And people like you believe it. And I would argue a lot of that comes from ignorance. If you don't know the royal system, which Meghan Markle is banking on, you don't understand those things. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Linda says he and his wife has single-handedly ruined these games. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Creative Chaosify says, I think if Harry's titles were taken away or he became a citizen, he would still continue using them. After all, what is anyone going to do? That's probably true. That's probably true. But I wish people would stop indulging him. Like, they're obsessed with it. Megan's like, the Duke of Sussex. I'm like, oh, give me a break. If the dude could tell me 5 things about Sussex and point it out on a map, I'd be shocked. Same for you. You two don't care. Like, I just find it obnoxious. Living Life says Canada feels like home, Malta home, Nigeria home, not Britain, never home. Britain is her husband's ancestor home for over 1,000 years, and it gives her the ick. Yep, because they didn't love her. Jeanette says, love the content, just here catching up. Why, thank you. Juan Paolo says, not welcome to Portugal. They should stay in California. It's kind of funny because nobody really wants them because they make themselves a nuisance wherever they go. Fritz of Peace says everyone is invited, says a woman who ignores her entire family for her wedding in a church. But yeah, we're creating wonder here. Look at me. I'm not wonderful. I shout out to Adam Levine. Yeah. And she also is practicing basically witchcraft with her friends and calling it manifesting. Like basically they were doing witchy stuff in that party with Kerry Washington. And so it's like, did her conversion even matter to the Church of England? She got baptized in the water of the Jordan River. That's very serious for Christians because that's where Jesus was baptized. So you got baptized in not in the actual Jordan River, but in part with water from the River Jordan. And you go to a seance basically and check out and hang out with and practice witchcraft and manifesting and stuff like all these new agey craft things. Sorry. That kind of stuff just drives me nuts. Okay, so we do have Texas Sunshine. Why, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. We got Lou Ann here with the super chat for 10. Love your videos. Do you think Harry will try to cause trouble in the UK if he's deported and if King Charles will do anything about it? So, I mean, Trump says he won't deport Harry, but Trump can change his mind. But I think there would be a good thing to seeing some of the consequences of his decisions. At some point, they are feeling consequences. They've lost money, they've lost contracts because of their own incompetence. And so I think Harry being deported might be a bit of a wake-up call for him. Might be a bit of a wake-up call. You almost, like, really need to, like, shake them, and I think that's where William was at some point. It's like he just really wanted to shake his brother awake going, "Do you not see the manipulations of this woman? Do you not see that you're falling hook, line, and sinker?" But Harry gave up basically all his autonomy to Meghan. It seems like, according to people, in part maybe because he's not that bright and because he wanted a mother figure, was fully willing to give a woman who wanted to control all the control. I bet you some of the tension from his relationship with Chelsea came from the fact that she wanted him to lead and he wouldn't lead. He would rely too much on her. And she's like, well, you need to be a leader in part. Stop relying on me for things. And so I think it would be funny if Harry was deported just for the pure factor of like she'd be like, "What? What? But it might be, I don't know what he'd do though, because what is he gonna do? Like, the only thing he's qualified for, as I've told us time and time again, is being a royal, and that's it. Oh, Canadian Beaver, thank you so much for gifting 5 Royal News Network memberships. That is absolutely fantastic. I love you in your cowboy hat. That's awesome. Skippy the Mouse says, William and Catherine know how to walk the line between being strict tradition and being relatable. Harry and Meghan wanted to be relatable, but they aren't. They aren't people that you want as friends. Exactly. And again, all royals have to walk this very careful balance. It is really like a precarious balancing act when you think about it, because royals have to be exceedingly wealthy, which a lot of them are, but yet also be relatable. So you by their very nature, they're actually better than celebrities in some ways because they actually do have to interact with real human beings and not just yes people in Hollywood. Now, granted, not all royals are perfect, and not all celebrities, and some celebrities are lovely, but you kind of get the here and there. So, Elle says, "What kind of king and queen do you think William and Catherine will be compared to previous royals?" I think they'll definitely be more laid back, more modern, to say. I hope they don't go too modern. You can sometimes overcorrect. So you need to be, yes, still have those approachable things, but you can't overcorrect to such an extent that you become sort of, I don't want to say unfocused, but you become you bring down the monarchy so much that it sort of loses its mystique. It is it's I don't know exactly how you do it, but I think the Swedes do it pretty well. I think the Spanish do it really well. And I think definitely it'll be interesting to see. I don't agree with William's perspective that Charlotte and Louis will have other jobs because they will desperately need members to work. They can't just have normal jobs. They're gonna have to be working royals. Your country is too big. You have too much with the Commonwealth. You need more working royals. And yeah. Creative Chaosify says, wouldn't it be hilarious if every time Megan starts to give a speech, the screen behind her plays a clip from her from 90210? But the veterans would appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's not the greatest. And I always think too, and this is just, I guess, me, I would never, if I was even offered that role, I would not take that kind of role. So I know actors are supposed to be doing anything, but they're like, oh, why don't you do this? I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'll walk away. Madame Savant says, I feel like she would have taken William if he would have shown her the slightest encouragement. Yeah, I think that's the thing. So I was talking to my mom a bit about this, and I think there are the women who will sort of flirt, and that's sort of how they get their way. But if a guy shows a level of interest, I think they'll try to take it further. Megan strikes me as one of those people. My mom was even telling me that there was a woman, it was even in church, that was like would praise my dad to no end for not really a whole like a lot of reasons. And she's like, I would get so annoyed with her. And she's like, I don't know what her angle was, but it's like she could have definitely had an angle. So Karin, just as an FYI, it is called criticism, and you really probably should figure out what, because you're not using the word correctly. And that's what so many people do, is talk about people they don't know. It's called the internet, honey. That's what people do. Al says, why is everyone saying how smart Megan is? I don't see it in any of the decisions they have made. I think she was sort of book smart in a way that she could pass tests. She could memorize enough to pass a test, but she couldn't do much beyond that. Ooh. Judgment Day is approaching, so repaint. Okay, I need to repaint my room. Good to know. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, going a little bit too far there. Going a little bit too far. But I think it's important to call out hypocrites and liars because sometimes the media won't do it. Devon Love says, I listen to various YouTube commentators, but lately I'm not seeing how their luxurious lifestyle is a fail. So this is the thing. And I was actually thinking about this last night when it comes to Meghan Markle's series. So it will be very luxurious and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be just about hosting. So she's not teaching any recipes, which is probably good because I think she hasn't really created her own recipes. And it's not really totally how to do, kind of. It's kind of about how to host, I guess. So, but in one shot we saw Meghan and Mindy Kaling in this gorgeously decorated little place where they could have tea outside. Now, would most of us be able to do that for a party? No. The question becomes, can she take these concepts that cost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars and bring them down to an average audience? That's a big question. Is the advice she's going to give too out of touch to most people or something most people can achieve? That is the question. That is the question. That I don't know. That I don't know. So, yeah. Gretchen the First says, I wonder if William avoided and deflected physical contact with Meghan because of what she might allege in a book. See the Billy Graham rule. The Billy Graham rule is great, guys. The Billy Graham rule, I think, is good for everyone. Now, it gets a little silly because one time, I guess he wouldn't even ride alone in an elevator with a woman, which I feel like that may be a little far. But I think, again, it avoids any sense of impropriety. That's the great thing. Billy Graham, if you don't know, he was a minister, preached all over the world, and he traveled all the time. So he wasn't with his wife a lot. He did not want anyone to ever think he was improper with another woman. And granted, it could have been a completely interaction. It could be a completely innocent interaction with a woman, but he never wanted anyone to misinterpret it. And you got to give William massive credit for realizing that people seeing him with Meghan and her being touchy-feely and all that is being interpreted as flirting. And he's like, it's not flirting. I'm uncomfortable and I need this to end. And I think that's a great thing. Lizzie B said, Chelsea made a good call. She saw too many red flags with him and bolted. Good for her. Aya, her jewelry band is easy to remember. It is. And I actually I took it off, but she had a sale. So I got one of the emerald necklaces and I'm almost thinking of getting something from the Ruby collection. Haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but it is really nice. It is very nice. CCA, round of applause for Meghan Markle knowing what a lunchbox is because apparently she's too old. That was funny. All right. Peter Jean says, she said on Archetypes that she left Deal or No Deal because she didn't feel smart in that role. And then immediately and then I don't want 210 bit. Exactly. The basic premise of acting truly is that you're not going to do anything. Like most of the roles, especially when she was at the age she was, requires a sexual component. It just does. It just does. So I think in a way she is like, you're not going to probably be any intellectually stimulated being an actor. If you want to be seen as smart, don't be an actor. I know some actors are smart. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them didn't graduate high school, sometimes even middle school. I think Johnny Galecki, who was on The Big Bang Theory, I think he dropped out of school in like middle school, high school. So some of these people barely finished schooling. So in some ways, they're not that bright. So Ollie Bear says, hi, Brittany. Are you going to be doing a live every day while the games are on? I hope so. Probably not. I don't think there's that much to say. Others might do it and others might be right, but I don't know. I just don't feel like that much about doing it. Honestly, I could do it today, but I have something else I want to do too. And I just don't know if it's worth doing today. So Sean Betty says, it's incredibly disheartening to see so much attention focused on irrelevant trivial commentary about the Royals while we have incredible talented athletes, disabled individuals. Exactly. There is a way to do it, I think, but I think they're just too chicken to do it. Gretchen says, a cooking show with no recipes is like a fish without a bicycle. Yes. So Madame Savant, and I have to read just because sometimes I get caught, says, yeah, Brittany, stop making fun of Rachel and Harold. She's so authentic. Why can't everyone see how amazing she is? Love her, darn it. Yes. People just, I don't understand the obsession with making people love her. People don't like her. That's fine. People don't like Catherine. That's fine, guys. Like, I'm not forcing you to love her. Like, if you like her, great. Sometimes I think the whining about between Catherine and Kate gets a little silly. I know some people don't like that, but I just think it's like there's more important things to talk about. So I just think that's a little silly. But like, come on now. Ritz says, "Come on, Mary, bring out the beautiful bling." Yes, I'm hoping for the France visit. Although I guess they don't normally wear tiaras. I really want Mary to wear a tiara because she has the ruby paré that was worn to the coronation of Napoleon. She needs to wear that in France with the necklace, the whole ruby parade. Like, wear it. CCA says, "Y'all can block the trolls if you don't want to see their comments." If there's a troll here and they're not saying like horrible, terrible things, then I'm okay with it for the most part. I mean, we had some people trying to imitate people, which was really weird. But like, if people just want to say like their piece and stuff, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that. They're repainting instead of repenting. That was funny. That was funny. Creative Chaosify says, "I find voodoo and mysticism creepy." Me too. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. Rona says, "How do I get a membership?" So there, I think you can, like, in the down below the video, I think there's an option to do it. I haven't seen it in a while. So Diane says, "Thank you so much." Laura says, "Do you think Netflix will be done with them at their end of their contract? What about WME as well?" WME, I don't know, but Netflix, I can't see them saying yes again. Unless Megan's series is a smashing success. And you can't, there is a sucker born every minute because somehow Kinda Pregnant, which looked horrifically awful, the Amy Schumer new movie, was like first on the platform. I'm like, people actually watched that. Are you kidding me? So, but she's so unlikable. Although honestly, Amy Schumer, I don't like Amy Schumer either there. So I don't quite get it. And that movie looked horrifically awful on like multiple levels. So Lando says, "We'll be able to find out how many people viewed Invictus if the viewings are down." So you will be able to see it via their YouTube for sure. Elizabeth Griffin says, "Didn't Cressida also say Harry got to the point where he was imagining Paps hidden in every bush and she couldn't deal with his paranoia?" I think so. I think honestly the paranoia just gets there. Judy says, "I really choked on my water when Rachel said she hadn't planned on saying anything during the opening of Invictus." Also, we see she decided not to merch her two kiddos. Yeah. She's not quite, I guess, to that desperation level yet. Yeah, Princess Goose says, "Many of the actors that are smart tend to do Shakespeare or more serious, thought-provoking plays or movies." Yes. Like, not saying that all of them are like that, but people who are particularly smart and particularly want intellectual stimulation will go to different projects than what Megan did. But Megan also wasn't a great actress because if she was, I think, more of an intellectual, she would wanted to have understood her craft and spent time like one of her theater people suggested, which is go and do plays, off-Broadway plays in New York. Hone your craft and then you can actually be successful. She decided to go the cheap way, which was, "I'm pretty, so I'll get roles." The unfortunate thing is, at some point, you're not pretty anymore. Then what do you do? Because you need to actually be able to act at some point. Yeah, Elizabeth said, "Great example. Look at all the problems caused by an inappropriate meeting for King Frederick. Hope it was all innocent. He'd be crazy to cheat on the stunning Queen Mary." But yes, just the look of it, him being alone. I mean, and literally in this woman's house, sleeping overnight, just looks bad. So that's why best not to do something without a buffer. Sonic says, "I agree. I will never have any respect for either of them, whatever they do after they tried to rubbish the royal family. It is just unforgivable." Yes. With all the YouTube Mexiters saying they will watch this if we don't have to, it's going to be popular. Yeah, but not as popular as you might think because I watched a bunch of guys review The Acolyte and I never watched a second of The Acolyte and it did not do well. So there is something where people are just wanting other people to review it and then they're like, "I don't have to watch it." So that's my thing. I was like, I heard it was bad. It looks bad. I'll just sit back and let somebody else watch it for me. Madam says, "If she was a good actress, we would believe that she loves Harry and is a good person." So true. Sonic says, "Why does she not sit for viewing seats at the games? Why does she feel part of something she's clearly not part of? It makes her look ridiculous." Yeah. And not wearing Invictus merch. She looks really disconnected when she's not wearing Invictus merch. And if she wore Invictus merch, the focus would be on the games more and not her. But she refuses to do it. So Sheriff from Tennessee says the Sussex squad thinks Catherine is imitating Meghan because things became more open. What is actually happening is that the monarchy changed after Queen Elizabeth's death. This happens in each monarchy. Exactly. It was always going to change a little bit. So Lando says you need to have someone help you edit. You constantly talk about you want and how you can't get videos out. Yes, I need to clear up one thing first, but then yeah, that's my goal this year. Actually, I first need to get an assistant, then an editor. Because if I can get an assistant, get some other things off and running more smoothly, then I can do other parts too. All right. So, oops. K West says, hit the thumbs up, everyone. So, guys, we will go ahead and leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a long one. So Chatty Cathy says, though, real quick, I wonder if Catherine is actually bothered by the Kate thing. I somehow doubt it. Me too. To be quite honest. I don't think she cares that much. But other people do, because I hear about it from time to time. And there's like a part of me that's like, does this really matter? I don't think it does. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more videos this weekend as we go through, obviously, the Invictus games. I'll have to do a reaction to the Meghan thing, but I also need to run a couple of errands too. So I need to probably take off. So guys, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in and your support. Did I miss anybody? No, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you again very soon. And Miss Pippa says hi, everybody.